Good morning, students. Good morning, students. So now, so far in last class, we have to complete the what are the basics of the data mining concepts, and where the data mining you have to use. And what kinds of data can be mined, and what kind of patterns can be mined, and which technologies you have to use, and what type of in what kinds of applications you have to target it. So these type of what are the issues of data mining. These all concepts you have to discuss, and also how to getting the know your data. For example, how the data you have to represented as the data objects and attributes types. These all concepts you have to complete in last class. Now in today's class, we have to discuss with that data pre-processing. So up to now, what are the concepts you have to study that is related to the basic concepts of the data mining? So what are the general way you have to, what type of kinds of applications you have to use, issues, and related to the patterns, related to the technologies, and different kinds of data. So these are all concepts you have to study. And what are the attributes and what are the data objects, statistical description of the whole data. So overall view of the data you have to represent it as statistical description of the data, and how the data you have to visualize to display the information about that data. So how to measure the data regarding to the similarity and dissimilarity. These all concepts you have to complete in last class. So now in today class, we have to discuss with that data pre-processing. What is the data pre-processing? How the data for how the data you have to, whenever you want to mine the data, first the data you have to arrange it into the on particular format, like in data warehouses. So in data warehouses, mainly you have to use this data pre-processing. So in data warehouses, whenever you have to creating the multi-dimensional cubes, that time you have to use this data pre-processing. In the data pre-processing, mainly whatever the data you have, various databases, those all data are inconsistent data. That means that the data is not in regular order. For example, a particular table you have to consider. So all the fields are you have to not filled with by customers. Only some of the fields only customer have to added, and remaining you have to leave those fields. So automatically the inconsistent data you have to represent it in the tables. So that is the inconsistent data you have to convert it into consistent data. That means data quality you have to maintain. Uh, so in the place of where you have to neglected the fields, that you have to some default value will be assigned. That inconsistent data you have to convert it into consistent data. Converting this one, that is simply you can repeat it as uh, data quality you have to maintain for that data. And what are the tasks? So here, whenever how the data you have to clean that data, how to integrate, how to reduction. These are the tasks you have to mainly you have to perform in data pre-processing. So those are data cleaning, integration, reduction, and transformation, and data discretization. So these are the concepts you have to discuss in the data pre-processing. What are the concepts? What are the various? What are the parts of the data pre-processing? That is the data cleaning, integration, reduction, and transformation and discretization. These are the four. Mainly, you have to divide into four types of four concepts you have to discuss in the data pre-processing. Okay, clear? So first one, what is the data quality? Data quality is whenever quality how can maintain for that data. Why pre-process the data? Whenever you want to perform, whenever you want to pre-processing the data, you must be maintain the quality of that data. So, for example, you have to consider you have to taking the input as a inconsistent data, so that you have to convert it into consistent data. That's the reason you have to pre-processing. You have to consider as the pre-processing the data. That is to maintain the quality of that particular data. That's the reason you have to perform the data pre-processing. So what are the measures of the data quality? So generally, the data you have to represent it in multi-dimensional views. So here accuracy, and these are the measures you have to mainly you have to represent. First one is the accuracy. So whatever the data you have to taking the input, we have to arrange it into the multi-dimensional view. First, we have to take the correct data and accurate data. That is simply you can represent it as accuracy measure. That is that measure is called accuracy. Accurate. So second one is the completeness. Completeness means it is recorded or unrecorded, not recorded, available or unavailable. So here you have to take the particular table. particularly registration forms we have to take. Some of the fields are filled with the data, some of the fields are not filled with the data. So all the fields you have to fill with the particular customer. That customer you have to fill with all the fill the all details. That is the completeness. And consistent. Some modified. Some modified but not done. That means consistency means consistency means whatever the data you have to enter from the first field. Similar way up to last field you have to fill with the same manner. Consistent, and you have to consider with the records from the first record to up to last record. You have to exact same way you have to represent the consistency. And timeliness, time to time update the data. Believability, trust the data, is it correct? And interpretability, how easily the data can be understood. These are the measures of the data quality. So whenever the data is the data is consistent, or you can represent it as it is the quality we have to measured with these concepts only. That is in multi-dimensional view: accuracy, completeness, consistency, timeliness, believability, and interpretability. Next one, major tasks of the data preprocessing. In the tasks of data preprocessing, first task of the data preprocessing is data cleaning. So what is the data cleaning? So first you have to discuss with the data cleaning. So whatever the missing values you have, that all data you have to fill with that missing values with the default values. That is the way you have to first you have to data cleaning. That is filling the missing values and smoothy, noisy data. So inconsistent data you have that data. Filling the missing values, smoothing noisy data, and identify or remove the outliers, resolve the inconsistencies. These are the data cleaning. So for example, actual data is we have to some data you have to not fill with that attributes. That is the missing values. Those missing values you have to fill with that some default values. Noisy data. So that means inconsistent information. You don't have the actual information. Identify and remove outliers. So that is out of range values. For example, the maximum marks of a particular student is 100, but who is entered is 150. That is we have to identify, and we have to remove those values. Resolve the inconsistencies. These all concepts you have to come under this data cleaning. And the next one is the data integration. In the data integration, mainly we have to concentrate on we have to multiple databases. So that, for example, whenever the data warehouse you have to implement, first all the data we have to collected from the various databases, and you have to integrate all these one. That is simply you can say that integration of multiple databases and data cubes and files. Okay, you have the different databases, so you have to integrate. Similar way in a database, so all the data you have to represent it as a cube or files. That is we have to integrate in the data from the tables to up to databases. That is the data integration. And third one is the data reduction. So mainly here in the data reduction, dimensionality reduction, numerosity reduction, data compression. Dimensionality reduction, for example, we have to consider 1,000 records are there, Out of that 1,000 records, you have to dimensionality you have to reduce it in reduced only some sample records you have to consider. That is the dimensionality. You don't take the all 1,000 records. Only you have to take a few records. That is the dimensionality reduction. As well as numerically, you have to reduce in similar manner. That is the numerosity reduction. And data is compression with the smaller values. So, for example, you have the actual value is 2 lakhs. As a percentage wise, you have to consider as uh, relate to the millions, 0.2, you have to represent it. Like this way, you have to minimize the values. That is the data compression, the data. And the last one is the data transformation and discretization. This data transformation is normally the data, the relationship between that, have one database data to data cube to another cube. That is the data transformation. That means you want to convert. That is, you have to represent it with the data transformation and data discretization. So here the concept hierarchy generation also we can discuss with the data discretization. So here in the data preprocessing, first one is the data cleaning. Now you have to discuss with the data cleaning. So mainly, what are the tasks of data preprocessing here? Four types of tasks are processed in data preprocessing. One is the data cleaning, and the second one is the data integration, and third one is the data reduction, and fourth one is the data transfer. First one you have to discuss with that data cleaning. So first one you have to consider here. See this this slide. Data in the real world is 30. Lots of potentially incorrect data. Example, instrument is faulty, human or computer error or transmission error. For example, while you have to typing the information, some mistakes are we have to type. Typing mistakes, instrument problems, while you have to communicating the data, transmission errors are there. So the data is a lot of incorrect data essentially. So that data you have to cleaning. How the data you have to clean? First one with this method. Incomplete data. So lacking of attribute values, lacking certain attributes of interest, containing only and aggregate data. Occupation. Occupation, you don't want to fill up the text text box. You don't want to fill any information. But actually, what is the occupation? So all the people are related to the, for example, you have to take the college database. Occupation is related to the assistant professor, associate, or professors. That is the information. So that based on that range, you have to specify the missing this type of data you have to miss. So this data you have to fill with that the particular related word. That is simply incomplete data you have to fill with the actual information. That is the missing data information you have to. Lacking of attribute values, lacking of certain attributes of interest, containing only attributes. That is occupation you have to check. Second one is the noisy data. So noisy containing the noise or errors or outliers. For example, salary. salary is minus 10. Is it correct? No. Salary is always positive value. So it is a typing mistake. That is an error. So this type of data also you have to clean. That is the data claim. Second one, third one is inconsistent, containing the discrepancies in codes or names. Example, age is 42. Birthday is 037-2010. So is the mismatch. Actually, age is birthday date has 3/7/2010, but the age is 21. I think 20 is the 10 or 11 years, but the age you have to represent it as 42. That is the inconsistent data. So based on that birthday date, we have to represent the age. So was raising a rating of values 1, 2, 3. Now rating as ABC. Discrepancy between the duplicate records. This is all data you have to call it as inconsistent data. And the next one is intentional data, that is the disguised missing data. January 1 is everyone's birthday. Okay, that is not correct. So that is the disguised missing data. So this type of data you have to clean by using the data cleaning concept. Incomplete data, noisy data, inconsistent data, and intentional data. Okay, first one you have to consider the incomplete data. The first one is the incomplete data. How the data you have to incomplete data, missing data, you have to fill. Data is not always available. Data is always not available. So now you have to fill with that data. Many tuples have the no recorded value for the several attributes such as customer income in sales data. So data is not always available. Many tuples have the no recorded value for the several attributes such as the customer income in sales data. So you have to leave it that. So next one is the missing data can be two. Equipment malfunction, inconsistent with other recorded data and thus deleted. Data is not entered due to misunderstanding. Certain data may not be considered important at the time of entry. Not register history of changes of the data. And the third one is the missing data. Missing data may need to be inferred. So whenever the data we have to miss, we have to fill with that appropriate average value, that is the incomplete or missing data, or appropriate keywords we have to enter. So see here, these are the incomplete data information related to that one. Now this is the missing data. Now we have to how to handle this missing data. This is the ignore complete row information. You are not filled with the people customers. So you have to remove that attribute. That is the ignore the tuple. Usually done with the when class label is missing. When doing classification, not effective, and the percentage of the missing values per attribute varies considerably. So we have to ignore that tuple. And the second one is fill the missing value manually. So manually you have to fill with the variables. Registers infeasible. Fill with the automatically with a global constant, or example unknown, a new class, Otherwise, you can have to fill with the automatically attribute mean. For example, average. What is the salary? That value, mean value, you have into the same class. That is smarter. It is the most probable value inference. So whatever the missing data in various tables, ignore the top one, fill up automatically. So fill in with automatically is unknown constant, attribute mean, and all samples belonging to the same class. Okay. This is the most probable value. Fill with that missing value. Next one, noisy data. So what type of data is occurred in noisy data in data preprocessing? First one is the noise error, and error, noise, random error or variance in the incorrect attribute values. We will have to discuss with that faulty data collection instrument. Instrument is giving exact result, not giving the exact results. That is the faulty data collection instruments. Data entry problems, while you have to typing the mistakes. Data transmission problems, while you have to communicating the data. Exact data you have to could not be received. And the third one is next one is the technology limitations, inconsistency, naming the conventions. This all comes under this incorrect attribute values. And the third one is other added data problems. This requires the data cleaning, duplicate records, incomplete data, inconsistent data, all comes under this noisy data. So already one record will be added. So that record you have to again you have to add it to the database. So that is in duplicate records we have to getting on databases in data tuples. So you have to eliminate those type of duplicate records, incomplete data, and inconsistent. These are the noisy data. How to handle this noisy data? First one, these are the 4 methods we have to use it to handle the noisy data. First one is the binning. By using the binning method, first to sort the data and partition into equal frequency bins. Then one can smooth by bin means, smooth by bin median, and smooth by bin boundaries. Okay. Actually, either whenever we want to this type of noisy data, we have to overcome with the binning. Whatever the data you have, the data first we have to sort. That sorted data we have to partition into the various bins. That means equally you have to arrange it in different slots. Then you can find out the means. For example, we have to consider the simple example. What are the values you have in between the 1 to 30? So 1 to 10 I want to take as one bin. 20 to 30, 10 to 20 is taken as another bin, and 20 to 30 is taken as another. So you can find out the 1 to 10 bin means, and 10 to 20 bin means, and 20 to 30 bin means, and similar way median values you have to find out. Boundaries. So this is the simply you can using this method, that is the binning method. And the next method you have to use it to handle the noisy data, regression. Regression method you can use the smooth by fitting the data into the regression functions. By using the regression functions, you have to fit that appropriate data. Next one is the clustering. So you have to arrange it the one collection of points you have to represent it as one cluster. And those type of clustering, first we have to detect and remove those outliers. Out of the cluster, you have to represent it as outlier. So that type of outlier values we have to detect and remove those outliers. And for example, the maximum, just now we have to discuss what are the maximum marks of a particular subject is 100. So greater than 100, that is simply it is a outlier. So those type of records we have to detect and we have to remove it. And next one is the combined computer and human inspection. Human inspection law. So generally here computer you have to inspect it a similar way. Human person like a user also you have to inspect that data and detect the suspicious values and check by the human and deal with the possible outliers. For example, you have to consider your answer sheet. You have to some of the people are not filled with the exactly set numbers. So actually you are the set one, but you have to fill with the set two. So that is the problem will be raises. So some of the people have to fill with that two bubbles, that is the set one and set two. So how you can justify by that human have to check it out. That person is related to the set one or set two. That is we have to by check it by the human, and he is finalize the data. So like that, combine the computer and human inspections we can do with the handle the noisy data. So these are the four types of methods we have to use to handle the noisy data. So here data cleaning as a process, simply you can represent data dispersing detection, data migration and integration process. So data dispersing detection, use a metadata, domain range, dependency distribution, check field overloading, data scrubbing, data arting. So these are the detection methods, data cleaning as a process. Similarly, migration and integration. What are the migration tools? We have to transform one data to one form to another form. That is the migration tools we have to use. That is extraction, transformation, and loading tools. So these are type of tools you have to use to migrate the data from one form to another form. That is the data migration and integration. Migration migration tools are the we have to represent, as well as extraction, transformation, and loading tools also we have to represent the specify the transformations to the graphical user interface. So this is regarding to the data cleaning. And the next one is the data integration. Data integration we have to discuss in next class. Now we have to see what is the data cleaning first. What are the methods you have? Data cleaning mainly you have to represent the four types of problems. Incomplete data, noisy data, inconsistent data, and intentional data. Okay, we'll take that next.